Chapter 1. When the east wind blows up Helford River, the shining waters become troubled and disturbed, and the little waves beat angrily upon the sandy shores. The short seas break above the bar at ebb tide, and the waders fly inland to the mudflats, their wings skimming the surface and calling to one another as they go. Only the gulls remain, wheeling and crying above the foam, diving now and again in search of food, their grey feathers glistening with the salt spray. The long rollers of the Channel, travelling from beyond Lizard Point, follow hard upon the steep seas at the river mouth, and mingling with the surge and wash of deep-sea water comes the brown tide, swollen with the last rains and brackish from the mud, bearing upon its face dead twigs and straws, and strange forgotten things, leaves too early fallen, young birds, and the buds of flowers. The open roadstead is deserted, for an east wind makes uneasy anchorage, and but for the few houses scattered here and there above Helford Passage, and the group of bungalows about Port Navas, the river would be the same as it was in a century now forgotten, in a time that has left few memories. In those days, the hills and the valleys were alone in splendour. There were no buildings to desecrate the rough fields and cliffs, no chimney-pots to peer out of the tall woods. There were a few cottages in Helford hamlet, but they made no impression upon the river life itself, which belonged to the birds, curlew and redshank, guillemot and puffin. No yachts rode to the tide then, as they do today, and that stretch of placid water where the river divides to Constantine and Gweek was calm and undisturbed. The river was little known, save to a few mariners who'd found shelter there when the southwest gales drove them inshore from their course up Channel, and they found the place lonely and austere, a little frightening because of the silence, and when the wind was fair again, were glad to weigh anchor and set sail. Helford hamlet was no inducement to a sailor ashore, the few cottage folk dull-witted and uncommunicative, and the fellow who's been away from warmth and women over long has little desire to wander in the woods or dabble with the waders in the mud at ebb tide.